At number 36 on the iconic 100 list is the 1955 Topps Roberto Clemente rookie card. And here to talk with us about it today is Nate at In Cardboard Veritas on Instagram. Nate, when I think about cards from this specific era, the mid 50s, this is really, to me, like it's one of the cards from the list. I honestly think it maybe showed up just a little bit low on the list. What do you think about its ranking?
Yeah, I think it feels about right. I agree, maybe just a little bit low. If anything, I certainly agree that it's one of the absolutely critical cards from that era. Kind of the golden era of baseball card collecting. The early and mid 50s, just phenomenal sets from that era, and this one is certainly toward the top of that pack. With the career that Clemente had, with 3,000 hits, being also revered as a great humanitarian and trailblazer in the game. His status is very lofty in terms of kind of where he sits in the game. And then the card is one that is just kind of typifies the era. You have from 1952 to 1956, you have the cards that are, slightly larger than they were and when they became standard size in 57. So this is one of the last years that you had the slightly bigger sets. It's the horizontal card, which you had in 55 and 56. And one of the things I really love about the 55 set is the almost kind of monochromatic, but it's kind of a fading color background that, really vivid backgrounds on a lot of these cards. In this case, it's a really nice bright green background that stands out with some other, kind of red elements on the card. So I think it's just, one of the great, beautiful cards from the set, and, certainly one of the most important cards from that era.
I think, we talked about a Kobe Bryant card earlier, the 2008 Topps Chrome. It's interesting that we're now talking about Clemente. Those are maybe the two of the very few athletes that we think about who we lost really early in their lives in really like tragic circumstances. And as I've listened to people who are older collectors talk about Clemente, you can tell there's sort of like an emotional connection there because they remember when he was gone, right? It's just one of those situations where he's there one day and then he's gone the next. Do you think as time goes by that sort of emotional connection will continue, especially because, a lot of the people who are collecting today don't remember that? Do you think that sort of has, I want to make sure I ask this in a sensitive way. Do you think that has like staying power, or do you think that's something where a lot of the players who played in that era are gone now, and so maybe people don't think about that as much anymore?
Yeah, it's a good question. Another person that comes to mind for me with maybe a little bit of a similar story where you could maybe draw an analogy is Lou Gehrig. And he was, 30 or 40 years prior to Clemente. He also died too young and too early, like Kobe and Clemente. He also is someone that, like Clemente, was really known for his tremendous character and continues to be revered for that. So I almost feel like you could take an example from Gehrig and say, well, gosh, I think we probably have at least 30 or 40 more years of Clemente being revered in that way and having that emotional connection, because I feel like people still feel that very powerfully with Gehrig. And so, I would think that will likely continue to be the case. And even looking at Gehrig, I don't know, maybe that goes away at some point in the next, coming decades, but gosh, it's hard to see it. I feel like once these people kind of reach that level of importance in the fabric of our culture and in our sports culture, maybe that goes away over a certain, I don't know, maybe there's some guys from the 1880s that people felt that connection to that I don't know about that my great grandfather would have. So I don't know. I'm sure it has to happen over some period of time, but I think we probably have some more time before Clemente starts to slip from our minds.
I've heard people talk about him in this way where they'll just never forget about him. And so your Gehrig comparison is really fantastic. The thing that I think Gehrig and and Kobe have in common. You mentioned that character between Clemente and Gehrig. The thing that I think Gehrig and Kobe have is they have these videos that endear us to them, right? Gehrig has one of the most famous speeches in the history of sports. Mm-hmm. And, when you hear that today I consider myself the luckiest man. Like when you hear that, who's talking, what the setting is. Even if you're not even like a real big fan, you probably know about that. And Kobe has maybe more film on him and more sort of inspirational, motivational type talking than maybe any athlete that's ever lived. Probably more than any other athlete that's ever lived. I mean, we just watched him his whole life. The thing that I wonder about with Clemente is people who watched him and loved him, I think, feel that. But I wonder if he doesn't have enough of that sort of like media that exists out there because of the era that he played in. But having said that, I don't really know it. I think it'll be interesting to see how time passes. The thing that is clear to me though, is when you think about really iconic cards post 52, which has it's like the list of, that's the set.
Right.
You think about everything from 53 and forward, the 55 Clemente is truly one of the most recognizable and iconic baseball cards on the list. I had it higher, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I had a lot higher on my list. And so I just wonder I wonder what's going to happen as time goes by.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I'd put it right there with the Hank Aaron and the Koufax, from right around those years from, like you say, post 52. The Aaron is incredibly iconic, certainly, but the Clemente and Koufax are not too far behind. It'll be really interesting to see in the coming years and decades how it continues to evolve. I can certainly say it remains an incredibly popular card among vintage collectors now, and talking to folks who are either own it and love it or would like to own it and already love it and, envision it in their collection. It was one of the cards that I felt like at the National last year, I heard a lot of people talking about. I heard a lot of people chasing. I saw a lot of them in case, it's not a rare card. There are a lot of them by the mid 50s. But I think people finding the right Clemente rookie, and in a lot of cases, that's what it is for we vintage collectors. And personally, I do own one, and I looked for over a year for the right copy. There are thousands of them, but for me, it was kind of a mid-grade that was really well centered and had great eye appeal, and that's not easy to find. So that was a really fun hunt for me, and ultimately got it in a trade, which made it even a little bit more fun. But that was a card that I had to have in my collection, for some of the reasons that you mentioned in terms of, where it sits and, that the canon of vintage baseball.
I love it. I love that description, Nate. Just the last thing that I'll say is we've just done the Mantle 53. We've done the 86 Fleer sticker Jordan. We've gone through the Jambalaya Jordan, some grails like the Mike Trout 2009 and Steph Curry Topps. Those are some of the most recognizable cards of today. So we're really getting down to the list that is really difficult to move up in. And it's like a who's who of the hobby. Here we are, decades after Clemente passed away. And, obviously it was 65 years or 67 years since this card came out. I hope I've got my math right there. And it's still there. Right, it's still towards the top of this list. Again, that's the 1955 Topps Roberto Clemente coming in at number 36 on the iconic 100 list. I want to thank Nate for joining me today. Tomorrow I'll be back with another guest for card number 35. And until then, happy collecting.